Guys, so this is our next fun tales with a twist called The Fun They Had. It's a short story by Isaac Asimov. And as we read, think about some of your best school experiences that you had around 11 years old, say late elementary, early middle. Um, and as I read, compare your own early school experiences with Margie's. And again, it's called The Fun They Had. And I always like these are called epigraphs or epigrams. Yes, epigrams. He smiled at her and gave her an apple, then took the teacher apart. All right. Just some notes too about the author, Isaac Asimov. He was born 1920, died 1992. He's a Russian-born American writer, considered one of the greats of the science fiction authors. And he wrote more than 500 books covering virtually all areas of knowledge. And it's cool with science fiction, you get to see if sci-fi predicts things in the future, like Zoom. All right, so this tale with the twist actually comes at the beginning. So this is a twist on the twist. All right, Margie even wrote it that night. Margie even wrote it that night in her diary. On the page headed May 17th, 2155, she wrote, "Today, Tommy found a real book." It was a very old book. Margie's grandfather once said that when he was a little boy, his grandfather told him there was a time all stories were printed on paper. They turned the pages, which were yellow and crinkly, and it was awfully funny to read words that stood still instead of moving the way they were supposed to on a screen, you know? And then when they turned back to the page before, it had the same words on it that it had had when they read it the first time. "Gee," said Tommy, "what a waste. When you're through with the book, you just throw it away, I guess. Our television screen must have had 1,000,000 books on it, and it's good for plenty more. I wouldn't throw it away." "Same with mine," said Margie. She was 11 and hadn't seen as many telebooks as Tommy had. He was 13. She said, "Where did you find it?" "In my house." He pointed without looking because he was busy reading. "In the attic." "What's it about?" "School." Margie was scornful. "School? What's there to write about school? I hate school." Margie always hated school, but now she hated it more than ever. The mechanical teacher had been giving her test after test after test in geography, and she had been doing worse and worse and worse until her mother had shaken her head sorrowfully and sent for the county inspector. He was a round little man with a red face and a whole box of tools. Forgot to try the spotlight. Yeah, there we go. And a whole box of tools. No, it doesn't work. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to make the little spotlight thing work, but it doesn't want to move. So we're going to stop that. All right. He was a round little man with a red face and a whole box of tools with dials and wires. He smiled at her and gave her an apple, then took the teacher apart. Margie had hoped he wouldn't know how to put it together again, but he knew how all right, and after an hour or so, there it was again, large and black and ugly with a big screen on which all the lessons were shown and the questions were asked. That wasn't so bad. The part she hated most was the slot where she had to put homework and test papers. She always had to write them out in a punch code they made her learn when she was 6 years old, and the mechanical teacher calculated the mark in no time. The inspector had smiled after he was finished and patted her head. He said to her mother, "It's not the little girl's fault, Mrs. Jones. I think the geography sector was geared a little too quick. These things happen sometimes. I've slowed the mechanical teacher up to an average 10-year level. Actually, the overall pattern of her progress is quite satisfactory." And he patted little Margie's head again. But Margie was disappointed. She had been hoping they would take the teacher away altogether. They had once taken Tommy's teacher away for nearly a month because the history sector had blanked out completely. So she said to Tommy, "Why would anyone write about school?" Tommy looked at her with very superior eyes. "Because it's not our kind of school, stupid. This is the old kind of school that they had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago." He added loftily, pronouncing the word carefully, "centuries ago." Margie was hurt. "Well, I don't know what kind of school they had all that time ago." She read the book over his shoulder for a while, then said, "Anyway, they had a teacher." "Sure, they had a teacher, but it wasn't a regular teacher. It was a man." "A man? How can a man be a teacher?" "Well, I mean, he just told the boys, and really it's human. Well, he just told the boys and girls things and gave them homework and asked them questions." "But a human isn't smart enough." Sure he is. My father knows as much as my teacher. He can't. A man can't know much as a mechanical teacher. He knows almost as much, I betcha. Margie wasn't prepared to dispute or go against that, she said. I wouldn't want a strange man in my house to teach me. Tommy screamed with laughter. You don't know much at all, Margie. The teachers didn't live in the house. They had a special building and all the kids went there. And all the kids learned the same thing? Sure, if they were the same age. But my mother says a teacher has to be adjusted to fit the mind of each boy and girl it teaches, and that each kid has to be taught differently. Just the same, they didn't do it that way then. If you don't like it, you don't have to read the book. I didn't say I didn't like it, Margie said quickly. She wanted to read about those funny schools. They weren't even half finished when Margie's mother called, Margie, school. Margie looked up. Not yet, Mama. Now, said Mrs. Jones, and it's probably time for Tommy, too. Margie said to Tommy, can I read the book some more with you after school? Maybe, he said nonchalantly. Ooh, remember, nonchalant is one of our words of the day. Remember, it's casual, like cool, collected. He walked away whistling, the dusty old book tucked beneath his arm. Oops. Sorry. All right. Margie went into the schoolroom. It was right next to her bedroom, and the mechanical teacher was on and waiting for her. It was always on at the same time every day except Saturday and Sunday because her mother said little girls learn better if they learned at regular hours. The screen was lit up and it said, today's arithmetic lesson is on the addition of proper fractions. Please insert yesterday's homework in the proper slot. Margie did so with a sigh. She was thinking about the old schools they had when her grandfather's grandfather was a little boy. All the kids from the whole neighborhood came, laughing and shouting in the schoolyard, sitting together in the schoolroom, going home together at the end of the day. They learned the same thing so they could help one another on the homework and talk about it. And the teachers were people. The mechanical teacher was flashing on the screen. When we add the fractions 1/2 and 1/4, Margie was thinking about how the kids must have loved it in the old days. She was thinking about the fun that they had. That's you guys, the old days, the fun that you guys had in school with real human teachers. I chose this story because I read it a long time ago. It's a nice short story. And there's some good questions I'm going to write in the Google form with this video. But I just want to go over the fact that I feel differently reading this story now, now having gone through COVID and remote teaching and like having to teach to people in their homes and stuff like that. So I'm not mechanical yet, but it's an interesting story. And so some of the questions I want you thinking about if we were in a real classroom, the questions that I'm going to be at that you'll see in the form below. Why do Tommy and Margie find reading a real book a funny experience? What kind of books are they used to reading? Describe the school that Margie attends now. How is it different from schools we know? What problems is Margie having at school? Why does she believe that schools in the old days were more fun? And you can look directly to the text for that. And then science fiction often predicts future scientific developments, like I was saying. What kind of educational system does Isaac Asimov project in this story? Explain the system. What problems? So there might be some pros. What is Margie's mom? I think I'm going to add a question to this. What is Margie's mom think that's good about the system as it is? And then what problems does the story suggest may result from this kind of technology in the future? And then finally, I wanted y'all to look at some details in the story that describe the schoolroom, classrooms, and teachers in this future society. And then how does Asimov make these things sound convincing? How is he able to make it sound realistic, even though it's total fantasy and make up stuff? So some good questions. And finally, although Margie lives in the year 2155, her problems at school are very similar to problems students have faced in all generations. Discuss her difficulties and the solutions offered by the society in which she lives. Like, for instance, learning at a different pace, everyone learning differently. And and the advantages and disadvantages of the new future type of education. So those are the types of questions you'll see in the Google form. And I hope you enjoyed this installment of Tales with a Twist.